What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday night edition of The Awakening World. I'm your host, Love Coach Scott Catamas, and I see so many of my favorite people that are already in our Zoom room, and we're coming in. And I want to especially welcome those of you who are watching on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, tonight, we've got two amazing guests. In addition to my wonderful co-host, the wonderful Trish Wright, who I just made co-host, we have my old friend Annie Sprinkle, who is an absolute icon, especially in the industry of understanding adult entertainment and love and sensuality and sexuality and ecosexuality, and 50 years of helping us to learn how to love our bodies, love each other, to drop the shame. She's just amazing. And would you believe Annie and I went to junior high school together? She and I were in Mr. Kelsey's algebra class back in the 8th grade. So we've got Annie and I representing the baby boomers, and we've got Trish and Erikaa Briones representing the millennials. And we're going to talk about really this wonderful movement. And it's great to have Erikaa with us as well. So we're going to be talking about sexuality, sensuality, sex positive movement, then, now, all sorts of, and really all the things that Trish is now teaching me about. Trish is always like the one teaching me what's new and what I need to be aware of and understanding of. And we have, of course, Omashar to always get us off to a wonderful start and bring us beautiful music. But just before we do that, I want to invite those of you who are watching on Facebook or on YouTube to actually join the Global Peace Tribe. It's really easy. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com. That's globalpeacetribe.com and learn for the new season. And when you click that, it's going to take you to our registration page. And it's easy to fill out the registration. And you will receive all of our links to all of our shows for now all the way through June 30th. We do 3 shows every week, sometimes 4, every now and then 5. And so, of course, this is the show that we're doing tonight. Then on Saturday night, we've got a wonderful show doing Everything with Love with co-host Eden Almadora, wonderful music, some really beautiful guests. And then on Sunday, it's going to be all about finding your community with Cynthia Tina, who literally wrote the book on how she traveled all over the world, staying at different alternative and communal communities, intentional communities, that's the word I'm looking for. and she's going to share with us what she's discovered and learned. So that's what we have this week. And what's great is you get the Zoom room links, and then you get to come in and you can chat with us. Like, come on, don't you want to chat with Annie Sprinkle? I know I do. And I know that my co-host Trish really does. She's been excited about it all week long. So come and join the Global Peace Tribe. All right. I am going to have Annie and Erikaa with us in a moment, but let's go to Omashar to get us off to a wonderful start with some music.
Yay, aloha and namaste and happy Women's Day. Awesomely awesome. This song is called Feel the Love. And yes, you can move and perhaps even groove to it. So here we do it.
Move and groove to the music.
I looked into your eyes, they love me a lot. You were the one who helped me change my thoughts. And now we're singing, feel the love, and feel the love come tumbling down. And feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. We're singing, feel the love, feel the love come tumbling down. Feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. You looked into my eyes, you spoke only truth. I found I couldn't live with myself until I opened to you, opened to you. So now I'm doing the right thing, it's doing the right thing. It's the only way I know, and I'm not ashamed of myself. I'm just going with the flow, going with the flow and singing. Feel the love, feel the love come tumbling down. Feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. We're singing, feel the love, feel the love come tumbling down. Feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. Feeling here in my heart, I won't let it leave me, I won't let us part. I've been waiting a long time for you to enter my life, and now I'm with you forever, I'm with you forever. Singing, feel the love, everybody. Feel the love come tumbling down. Feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. We're singing, feel the love, feel the love come tumbling down. Feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. We're singing, feel the love,
That's a great one. Let's go to gallery view. Everybody, let's twinkle our beloved friend Omar. So that was a perfect song to get tonight started.
Yes, it is.
Now, when did you get the inspiration for tonight's song? How quickly does it come?
Basically, I just wanted something about love and something that was from the heart. And I just thought I had this new video that you can see behind me and this love power. And I bought this new shirt and I think they all match and it's going to go wonderfully for tonight. And I'm really excited because it's such an important topic to be talking about in this healthy format and forum where everything can be revealed and everything can be spoken about freely. And so I'm so grateful for that and for the hosts we have, the guests we have tonight, Scott.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Omar.
You're very welcome, brother.
And we'll hear more on Bashar a little bit later. You know, and I love that 60s patterning because I grew up in the 60s. Annie grew up in the 60s. So it's perfect. But I'm going to go to my wonderful co-host, Trish. Trish, tonight's show is for you. It really is. So what comes up for you with the theme, the topic, and
Well, I mean, I know that you invited Annie specifically for me because we've been talking about this for a long time. And one of the things that maybe our viewers don't know about me is that I'm incredibly pro sex work and incredibly pro sex positivity. And one of the things that has happened throughout our culture and our societies for lots and lots and lots of years is and specifically International Women's Day is a very poignant time, is that when the people in power want to control people, they suffocate our pleasure. And one of the things about, being sex positive or being or celebrating your sexuality or sensuality is to really honor what that is. And I'm really excited to invite Erikaa and Annie on, who both have strong foundations in sex work. And I want to talk. Like my first question, really, I know Scott was like, you get the first question. I was like, it's spicy. Is really how much the freedoms, our sexual freedoms that we have now are really riding on the backs of sex workers. And for all of you who may have some feelings about that, I invite you to really think about why you might have some judgments there. Because this is literally the oldest, most loving profession. So just a thought. So I'd love to hear both Erikaa and Annie share your thoughts about that and your experiences and your feistiness.
Beautiful. Let me briefly introduce who Annie is, because we know who she is, but not everybody does. Annie has been a sex worker, filmmaker, earned a PhD in human sexuality, does visual art in college lectures, was an official artist, has just done such a wide variety of things, and is currently all about ecosexuality. We'll learn about that today. But let's hear from Annie first, and then we'll bring up Erikaa to hear her response to Trish's question. Welcome, Annie. Welcome to the Awakening World.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here with everybody, and I feel the love, and I needed that little dance. It's just great to be in this community and all of these pleasure activists and love artists and lovers. And we are the earth, and the earth is my lover. So I'm an ecosexual these days, but I was telling Scott, who we went to junior high school together in Granada Hills. Interestingly, we both kind of went in different tangents. I went into the sex industry and Scott went into filmmaking. And when I was 18, that was 50 years ago, I started making porn movies and got into prostitution. It was called then. Now we call it sex work. And I did that for 22 years, mainstream porn and sex work. And then I bridged into arts in my mid-30s. I always loved art, and I've been very successful as an artist, but my work is still about sex. So it's been 50 years that I've been researching and exploring sex in all its glorious and inglorious forms. I don't speak about sex work today because I haven't done it in 25 years or so. So I leave that to the young people or the people who are doing it now, which there's a lot of elders doing it as well, who are more up on that. But I can speak to the history and my experience.
Well, I'd love to hear just your heartfelt sense of the peripheral piece around how, like, you know, how sex worker rights are human rights in this piece, how the way that sex workers move and how they own their sexuality and pleasure is really one of the things that's really pushing our world and our sensuality forward, actually. I mean, I'm a big sex worker researcher. I research a lot. I have a lot of sex worker friends. My job is very like edgy. You know, I'm a certified sex coach. I teach classes and people how to do it better, mostly communication skills. But what I notice is how deeply profound some of my friends' experiences with people are, how deeply transformative and healing, and how they are all activists for all of our pleasure, and how they're all activists for, you know, protecting our children. Like, and that's one of the things that I'd like to talk about is how it shifts, like to kind of dispel some of the beliefs. And just a side note, if you are not following Annie on Twitter or any of your amazing stuff and you want to see some of her art, go now. It's awesome.
Well, first of all, we can't talk about the subject without talking about privilege. And we're in the United States, and there's many other cultures and countries where things are different. I was, you know, privileged to work in good places with pretty good people. But not everyone has that luxury. A lot of, you know, so it's like saying, oh, all doctors are good, or all nurses are great, or all, you know, carpenters are great. You know, I mean, there's so many people that don't want to be doing sex work, but are poor and have no choice. And it's their best choice. Sometimes it's not something they love or want to do, but are desperate, or they're, you know, drug addicted or alcoholic or forced. So, you know, there's so many different kinds of sex work and sex workers. And I'm from what's called the happy hooker generation. I got in 1973 to the sex industry, and it's 2023. So a lot's changed, some for the better and some for the worse. But I did choose to do it. And I felt I was very interested in healing aspect, the sacred prostitute. You know, I learned I was a pro-dom and submissive. I did everything. I've had sex with thousands of people. But my sexuality was always linked to my heart. And, you know, I was led by I had a strong libido in my 20s and 30s and 40s, but largely I was lucky to come from a family that was compassionate and humanistic and social justice oriented. And I was raised really to be an activist. So when I was 18, I worked in a porn movie theater that showed Deep Throat, and the film was busted. I was in court as a witness because it was illegal to transport pornography across state lines. So they asked me a few questions, but it was there I met the director of Deep Throat, became his mistress. That's how I got into porn. And I just loved sex, and I loved filmmaking, and I loved the creativity and art. And there's a rich whore culture, so I found my niche, and I always thought it was temporary, but here we are 50 years later, and I'm still doing, videos about sex and little films. My website, by the way, is sprinklestephens.org. So that's the best place to see. I'll put it in the chat for those that can see it. Sprinkle Stephens, STEPHENS.org. We have way too many websites, but that is the most current, still in progress. But been at it a long time, so I'm very grateful. I've had a great life. I've learned a lot, and Scott and I have a lot of mutual friends who are amazing, but I was not, I chose my path and take responsibility from what happened, good and bad, or whatever. There is no, that's very binary, but dualistic. But yeah, that's my story in a nutshell, and I'm sticking to it. No, it actually changes. I call myself a metamorphosexual, which is I'm always in a state of change every day to day, year to year, month to month, decade to decade, century to century. So I change, our bodies change, our interests change. I've kind of been there, done that, and a lot of stuff, and that doesn't interest me anymore. But yes, sex work is, I have a piece called Why Whores Are My Heroes that I performed for many years. Why Whores Are My Heroes. If you actually, my old work is at anniesprinkle.org, and you can find How to Cure Sex Worker Burnout, Why Whores Are My Heroes. I was very committed to sex worker rights and healthcare for a long time. I can't believe sex work is still illegal, a lot of it in the United States. It breaks my heart. Especially Women's Day, they say that 1 in every 10 women globally does some kind of sex work. We're talking huge. Lots of grandmothers, great-grandmothers, aunts, uncles, all of it. We all have sex work in our families.
Yeah. Annie, it's such an honor to have you on this show. And as she mentioned, Annie and I went to junior high school together. And then we reconnected when she was living in New York. And I just made a movie called Men in Love, which is a feature film. And Annie was working with a wonderful woman who's no longer with us, Candida Royale, and creating beautiful erotic films for femme distribution, which was romantic erotica. And Annie, I'll always remember that great film you did about the genie. It was really, really cute.
Actually, it's called Rites of Passion. It's just been released on Pink and White Productions, which is an awesome feminist porn company, genderqueer porn company. So go to Pink and White Productions. You can see Rites of Passion. It's half is directed by me. It's about my introduction to Tantra and meeting this male tantrika and Jwala, the Tantra teacher. And I took ecstasy and met this guy and had that amazing experience. And that led me, I taught for, 15, 20 years with Jwala, who is a sannyasin, and we're still in touch. But yeah, went on to other things.
I'm going to bring on our other guest. And she's been on the show a couple times, and I really have tremendous respect for Erikaa Briones. She's the writer of the Sacred Prostitute Chronicles. She's a facilitator of women's sexual empowerment workshops, and she's a self-pleasure shaman. Her shaman side comes from her native indigenous wisdom as a Yaqui and her medium abilities. And her focus is being an advocate to use self-pleasure as a ceremony. Her mission is on guiding women to be their own healers and her vision is to witness collective healing between the masculine and the feminine for the future generation. So Annie, you and I get to meet the two people that, you know, kind of we're passing the torch on to Erikaa and to Trish. These women are both amazing. And so I thought it would be really, really fun to have the next generation having a chance to talk with you and just kind of to look at where we've been and where we're going. So welcome, Erikaa.
Thank you. And my heart is just beaming listening to you, Annie, when you talked about your story. And I remember you were talking about privilege, that some sex workers, when they get into this, they have like a poor mindset. They have a poverty mindset. And when I started doing this work, it was a poverty mindset. I had a pimp when I first started, and I had a college education, which is really surprising. But my emotions, I was still developing my relationship to myself, my relationship as a woman. And when I got into sex work, it initiated me to love my sensuality, to own. So I went from poverty mindset to wealthy mindset because I started to love myself as a sex worker. And so when I came out last year, actually 2 years ago, I started to write Sacred Prostitute Chronicles, and it was a healing journey to write this. And there's a part that I haven't got yet in my chronicles, and it was when I started to discover my sensuality, my sisterhood. And I picked up this book called Urban Tantra, and the foreword was by this woman named Annie Sprinkle. And I said, I don't know, this was my Bible, like this book called Urban Tantra, and then you wrote the foreword. I said, I want to feel this excitement about what I'm doing. I want to feel purposeful. I want to feel passionate to share this and be proud about it. But I had so much shame because of society, because it's stigmatized, because it's illegal. And even this conversation is so reassuring. I'm self-soothing my body by having this conversation. So when I used to be in sex work, it was very taboo. I was living a lie, and it feels yummy, delicious to just share your truth. And then the more that I'm sharing my truth, since I wrote my biography on, like, I want to witness this masculine, feminine healing. I want to be witness to this consciousness. And suddenly I have a lot of females reaching out to me for mentorship because I want them to win. I want them to feel safe. And honestly, when you're a sex worker, you learn a lot about artistry. You learn about beauty, flirting, sensuality. There's just so much magic to it. And I feel that it's been a privilege to be a sex worker in this body. So I have so many stories to share, but what I will share is that sharing about it is healing. And I will say that discovering mentors, like sex educators, gave me this appetite for passion, for purpose that I never had before in my life. Because anyone can have a job, and anyone can, just sell their soul and not really appreciate who they are in that job. So anyone can be prostituting themselves in a job. It might be triggering for some of you, but the truth is, even when I was a sex worker for most of the time, I was in that prostitute mentality, like just get $1, just go by. But eventually, when I started to study more about Tantra and BDSM, I fell in love with the energy, with just understanding how my body works, learning how my skin feels, feeling orgasmic with my breath. I didn't know about how simple meditating is, how simple closing your eyes is. We sometimes think that sex work is all about sex. It's not. And that's the mistake that we see in sex workers, is that it has to be sex focused. But some of my best sessions has been me holding clients crying. Some of my best sessions have been them telling me how they're unhappy in their relationships. And so in a way, I felt like I think I'm supposed to be a coach or something, because these people need something more than sex. They're hungry for something deeper that food can't give them.
Yes.
And so when I started this work, it was like, it's not just about sex. They're lonely, they're tired, they're hungry for something on a soul level. So when I started to discover that my work wasn't just about, you know, an In-N-Out burger, it wasn't a job, it was like, they want substance, they want soul food, they want mama food, so they can feel satisfied from the inside out. And that's what this journey has taught me. It's not just about the instant gratification, it's about the human experience. And so that's the beauty that I gained from this work. Is it's taught me a lot about owning my story, owning my voice. And I still remember watching these women just go online and share their story, and I would look at these videos thinking that will never be me, until I said, what happens if I become that? What happens if I start writing about it? What happens if I start coming out? Then other people heal in your truth. And so even sharing here, I still feel nervousness in my body, but in a way, it is healing to share our truth, because our society, especially in the US, it's so taboo. But I also know if I do go to other parts of the world, it's so liberating. It's so free. I think in Australia, it's legal. And I just know from experience, the US can be taboo. So that's a little bit about my experience.
Many places there's different styles of sex work. There's 4 different kind of venues or like legalization kind of ways, especially in Europe, and there's Australia. There's a couple places, and obviously the Dutch kind of countries, and Paris, France, aspects around there, and they're all different styles. They're practicing and learning and trying to find ways that sex work can be legal, where people can be freer. I think Ireland, just because they're 2 different, that something's shifted there, and I love that. I love that you said that that you were really vulnerable about sharing the nervousness, because there is still some unsafety in sharing it, right? And just like Annie said, is like, can't believe we're still struggling through legalization here or even decriminalization here in the US.
Yeah.
People are desperate for connection, and they're looking towards anything. Like, you know, a lot of men are taught that connection is sex, and women are taught that connection is love. So it's just like this whole weird dynamic where we're deeply seeking deeper connection and exploration of our pleasure. As Annie said, is pleasure activism. One of the things that I do in my work is that I go on couples retreats. Like, I go with couples to wherever they want to go, or their home maybe, and I teach them. Well, I work their breakdowns with them, whatever their emotional communication breakdowns are, and then I'll teach them the sexual skills that they want. Whether that's I don't use the T word anymore, Tantra, because I'm not practiced enough. I haven't studied long enough, but the sacred sexuality pieces. And I've been a heavy player in the BDSM realm for over 11 years, like high level protocol games. And that's been incredibly powerful to have people go, whoa, I had, and again, it's the sort of the gray area of the line of what I'm doing and and what sex work is it really is, if we can expand the concept a little bit to offer people what they're really seeking, right? The heart-centeredness, you know. I'm curious, if you wanted the world to know anything, What would you want anyone here in the world to hear about sexuality or sex work, or just like if you had like a gift for everyone that you want to like invest or plant into their heart, what would it be?
Hire a sex
What?
worker would
What?
change your life.
Oh.
Hire a sex worker. That would be my piece of advice, because you wouldn't have that stigmatized if you have a beautiful experience. It can be so loving and transformational. I've worked with a couple before where, again, it wasn't sexual. It was just like, okay, I just want you to connect and like look at your wife. You haven't really looked at her for a while in a different light. Instead of looking at her like a mother or her job or her title or what her body weight is or her skin color, look at her like a woman. And today is International Women's Day. So for the men, really look at your woman and celebrate her with your eyes. And just in that connection alone, you're having that sensual experience. And while there might be a sex worker in the room, they will guide you to go deeper into that connection because they can see the blind spots. And yeah, there might be some sexy massage involved and candles and laughter. But we just kind of like shift you to just cross more into your heart space. And so, yeah, if you actually hire a conscious, sacred sex worker, who I believe are light workers, like sex workers are light workers. We're actually doing the biggest work. We're doing the biggest transformation. I would say that would be my piece of advice.
So how do we get to hire you, Erikaa? I think everyone should hire you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I recently left the sex industry. So I was in the sex industry from 2012 until the pandemic. So March of 2020. So my 3-year anniversary is this month. So it's my 3-year anniversary of leaving the sex industry, because I would rather just mostly focus on coaching and going deeper. But I do feel like my biggest mission is to support other sex workers. Like that is my calling, to just mentor these future sex workers. If other sex workers want me to mentor them, that would be a dream come true. Like any way I can support my fellow sex workers would be something I would look forward to. And I do have to say, endorse one company that completely changed my life, and that was Bondage. So shout out to Bondage. Jaylene is the founder, and I think she did recommend Urban Tantra. And to have a mentor that really just makes you love this work, psychologically, scientifically, you have resources, you have a community. If I had to start over, I would start with a community and a heart-centered mentor that can lead you. So that's what I would do differently.
Beautiful.
Did you want to answer that, Annie?
Yeah, I am. I guess what comes to my mind is how I have a very expanded view. As I said, we are the earth, where our bodies are water, we minerals, other creatures, we're only part human. So my point would be that sex is everywhere all the time. We have biome clouds that are constantly reproducing with other people's biomes clouds. That I have what I call the ecosexual gaze. If I see a bee pollinating a flower, it can be like a live sex show. You know, it's erotic. There's eroticism and sex everywhere in nature all the time. And I find that really fascinating. And where does our body start and end? It doesn't necessarily just, it's not just the skin necessarily. It could be that, you know, we are the whole planet, or we are the cosmos. It's just fun to think about all the sex going on the planet right now with animals, plants, soil, bacteria, all of it. Sex is just everywhere. And if we, and sex isn't, I'm not generally focused in my sexuality necessarily. I love my genitals, but I love my clit, I love my vagina, I love my anus, I love all that. But I do feel like, you know, I can enjoy putting my nose in a rose, which is the reproductive organ of the plant. You know, it's seeing seeds, pods, and just start, I guess, get your ecosexual gaze on and start seeing that sex is everywhere. And there's not shame in, you know, my dog here, Butch, you know, he sniffs butts and other dogs, and there's no shame there. And we're basically animals. We are animals, and we are made up. There's so many other critters in our bodies. It's just exciting to think about how they're all getting it on. I don't know. That's where my mind's at today. What can I say? But I also want to remind you that sex work is legal in parts of Nevada here in the United States. We are a puritanical country. A lot of the laws are about controlling bodies, not just men and women, but trans people. There are a lot of trans sex workers and a lot of men. It's not just women or cis women, it's all genders. And it's a way to control our bodies, and abortion is abortion rights to choose to take care of your body are being eroded, and it's really tragic. And I think it's really important too to know your body, and you mentioned that, Erikaa, knowing your body is so important.
Seriously.
Hmm.
Mm.
I'm going to stay out pretty much because it is International Women's Day and we've got 3 amazing women here. But I do want to briefly point out, I've put into the chat box, Annie's kind of her website that's about more of her history. And then this is what she and her partner Beth are up to with ecosexuality.
By the
And
way, Scott, I don't know where you got that bio, but I've been working with Beth 20 years and the bio says 12. So I guess it's 8 years. That one's 8 years old. But yeah, this is our current website. We just did a project at the San Francisco Public Library. It was called Eco Sex in the City on Saturday. And that was really fun. We do a lot of performance art. We're doing a big symposium, an eco-sex symposium in Manhattan in June. We're teaching in Earth as Lover is kind of our theme. And by the way, if you want later, I think we have time, I have a little eco-sex primer if anyone's interested.
fabulous. Let's absolutely do that.
Because a lot of people don't know what that is, but basically it's just imagining, you can still imagine the earth as your mother or your friend or anything, but it's kind of shifting the metaphor to earth as lover, and it could be earth as MILF, mother. The mother has sex, you know, the mother does have sex, and the earth is certainly reproducing all the time. So
Annie, do it now. I mean, we're on it. Go ahead and share
Okay,
this
well,
the primer.
I'd be curious how many people here are identifying as ecosexual. But if you don't know what that is, a lot of people don't, but I would say there are a good million people out there that are identifying as ecosexual. So yeah, I guess I can show you my ecosex primer. So we all know that this is my version of ecosex. There's many. But Beth and I kind of took this word eco-sex, which was out there a little bit as a dating term, and we expanded it. But we, you know, I had breast cancer, I've had lung cancer, I've had health issues, and realized how much the environment affects our bodies and our families and people, entire countries. That the earth is, you know, being polluted and so toxic. So we can't just keep sucking from the tit of Mother Earth and expect her, the mother, to take care of us. She's in menopause, and we have to, not expect her to take care of us and do our laundry all the time. Or people imagine the Earth as an enemy force, which is they try and dominate and control the Earth. But we imagine the Earth as lover, because it's mutual. It's like, if you don't treat your lover well, they'll leave you. So it's kind of a different kind of way of imagining it. We imagine, Beth and I, the Earth is all genders, not just female or male. It's trans. I see the Earth as trans. But it can morph into different things at different times. Certainly, Earth can be a mother to us. So this is the term ecosexual. You can't see this probably, but it is a dating term. It's a person who finds nature sensual and erotic, and I'm sure many of you have had some kind of sensual or erotic experience with something non-human, like a feather, I don't know, or a waterfall pounding your head, or just going to ecstasy. It's a new movement. We have an eco-sex manifesto on our website. It's an environmental activist strategy, a new sexual identity. You don't have to give up any of your other identities. You can stay queer or straight or whatever you want, kinky, and just add that on. And then there's, you can define eco-sex for yourself. Just two more things. So we created the Sprinkle-Stevens scale to see how ecosexual you are based on the Kinsey scale. Like a number one is eco-romantic. Some people, they just can't wrap their head around Earth as lover, but they are eco-romantic. They love the Earth. They can watch a sunset and fall in love. Or they can be eco-curious, like, I'm not there yet to identify as ecosexual, but I am eco-curious.
Annie, can you explain the Kinsey scale too? Because I think there's a lot of people who might not.
Oh, the Kinsey scale was created in, I think, the 50s to show how gay or straight you are. And a Kinsey 6 was totally gay, and a Kinsey 0 was not sexual at all, or totally straight. It's totally hetero. And then somewhere in the middle is bisexual. So we have it like not ecosexual to extremely ecosexual. But you could be ecosexual and have something else if you want. And this is the last one. It's our ecosexual fetish chart. You could have ecosexual fetishes or fantasies. Fantasy and imagination is a big part of ecosex. Like sometimes I tell people, masturbate and have a fantasy of making love with something other than human. So there's aquaphiliacs, terraphiliacs, aerophiliacs, and pyrophiliacs. So like imagining the earth the air penetrating your lungs, or the sun rays penetrating your pores, or the wind blowing through your hair. All those are kind of erotic experiences, and they can range from mild to extreme, like swimming with sharks. And we know someone that does that, don't we, Scott? Swimming with sharks and dolphins and whales, and like that's pretty intense. Or skiing down a slope, and there's all kinds of, and we use a lot of humor in our work, like we have a whole glossary. We have a book about ecosex called Assuming the Ecosexual Position. And we have a whole glossary of funny terms and fun. It's a kind of, we're creating a niche where sex positive people can go. Like if I go to the Sierra Club, I can't be a porn star and dress up like this and wear this, they freak out, it's pretty straight, or the militant environmental activist group. So we created an affinity group for punks and queers and drag queens and sex workers and all that, who love the earth, but they don't feel they fit into the environmental activist world or communities like that. So yeah. I've been doing this since 2008 when we married the earth, and we took on the idea of being ecosexual. It's just really stuck, and it just grows and grows, and it's kind of fascinating. But sex work also is a word that has different connotations and definitions to different people. Like for some, it means you're just giving, you're having intercourse, giving blowjobs and hand jobs. That's sex work to some. And they're certainly on the front lines. But there's also, what is sex work? My partner's an academic. She's a professor. She teaches a class on porn. She does a lot of performance art about sex. And, they risk losing their jobs. And journalists also who write about sex, sex is political and controversial, and what a sex worker is. In different countries, it varies. Porn stars or burlesque, is a burlesque dancer a sex worker? Some say no.
I know. So I went through Dr. Patty Britton's Sex Coach University, and I love the whole thing. And I would always be like, you know what? Sex coaching is sex work. And they were like, no. And I was like, prove me wrong, because I think that the wider the umbrella, the better it is for everyone, right? The more protections are there for everyone. And I want the people who choose to do sex work to be in sacred intimates, to do their dom work, to do whatever it is that they want to do. I don't, I'm like, oh, you want to be a sugar baby? You do that, baby. And, oh, you want that? Okay, you do that. Like, I just would prefer that people get to do what they want to do in a safe environment where they have the community that Erikaa was talking about, where they have that beautiful foundation of protection and safety for everyone to thrive. And then we can protect the people who aren't there choosing to be there. Because I'm not wanting children traffickers, and I don't want people who are forced to be there. And I want to protect them, and I want to build a world where sex work can support those people as well. And that's important to me, right? There's a lot of people that, if you're interested in understanding more about sex work and sex worker, like the benefits, there's a woman named, I think her name's, let me look it up. It's Estelle Lucas, and I think she's from, is it Australia? I think she's from an Australian researcher and sex worker who's been doing a lot of research around how to help protect sex workers all over the world. She's really fascinating. There's a couple of other, there's lots of books that you can read. One that I'm curious about reading is called Thriving in Sex Work by Lola Davina. I'm really curious about that. Just, again, as a community member who wants to protect their sex workers, because what sex workers do is offer profound connection. If you lose your partner, and you lose your partner and you're still craving intimacy and connection. I mean, what was the movie that really recently came out? I've had a whole bunch of, so I went through a year-long program with a bunch of older women in their 60s and 70s. And it was all about the woman had lost her partner and she was seeking out a younger sex worker. And they were all like, what do you think about this? And they had
Morgana.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, and they were just like, "What do you think about this?" And then it came out that they were like, "Do you have any connections?" And I was like, "Oh, you're seeking a sacred intimate. You're seeking an intimate male partner because your partners have died, or you're quote unquote too old to date, that you just want to have an experience that's around you." And I was like, that's so sweet that they're asking me for referrals. And I was like, no, I don't, but we'll go look for you. It was so sweet. Just
I want to read some of the comments that have come into the chat box. And then there's a couple of questions for Erikaa and Annie. First off, I did put in the chat box that there's going to be an eco-sex walking tour that Annie is leading on Earth Day on Saturday, April 22nd in San Francisco. Annie lives in San Francisco with her partner, Beth. So on Earth Day, what better way to celebrate Earth Day than to go on an eco-sex walking tour with Annie Sprinkle? So the details are on the link. Trish, I'm expecting you to be there, and you can tune in because it's a Saturday night, so we'll have you share details on our show that night if you can.
Well, I don't know what day that is.
Saturday, April 22nd.
I'm not here.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, my calendar is on sprinklestevens.org. We're also going to Mannheim, Germany to do walking tours. And so if you go to calendar, Scott, up on the top, yeah, we're busy, especially I want to invite people to come to Manhattan mid-June. We just did that last Saturday.
You're gonna be in Kansas City, right? Kansas City.
I'm making a film about Scarlett Harlot, who invented the term sex work. She was my friend since the 70s. She just passed away. And so we're having a big memorial for her. And there will be an online May 20th, the film launch internationally around the world. And if anybody out there knew her or was inspired by Carol Lee, please make a 1-minute video for the film. And they're due in a week, so get on it. Just use your phone.
Okay, so you're collecting, just to be clear, you're collecting 1-minute videos that we film on our phone about how Carol Lee's work inspired or impressed us.
Yeah, she's the patron saint of sex workers, this generation's sex workers. She invented the term sex work. You can read the New York Times a bit on her and my photos in there. Anyway, I've been working hard, and we actually placed her archive at Harvard Schlesinger Library. I'm really into archives. I've gotten Queen Adrena, Lady Wrestler, and Pro Dom in there. I'm in there. Margot St. James. So are the anti-porn. We call them the antis.
Let me read a few of the comments, and then there's also some questions. Jennifer writes, as someone who was raised Catholic, with all of the shame and oppression that it entails, I'm so appreciating this open conversation. Albiana writes, I'm concerned about misrepresentation of what sacred sex is. So that might be something for one of you to comment on. I'm going to get to Doreena's questions in a moment. Erikaa had written that her first orgasm came from a water faucet. So boy, talk about ecosexual. You got off to quite a start there. Charlotte writes, I'm so excited to see Annie. We hosted her for a week of events in Windsor, Ontario at the Windsor Feminist Theatre sometime in the early 2000s, and it was amazing. So Annie, you've got an old friend in the audience with you here. Dia writes, yes, sex workers, light love plurkers, which is play and work. And many, many other people just really appreciating the conversation. Okay, let's get to Doreena's questions. She has two. The first one is, and this might be a good one for, well, both Erikaa and Annie. What is your take of the effect of the mixed legal situations around the world, where there are more progressive expression of sexuality and sexual fluidity, as opposed to where prostitution is legal, and then all the way to the other end where abortions, even those from rape, are banned in Ecuador. And of course, no sex-related activity at all in places like the Middle East. So I think it's a question about the contrast. And then Doreena's other question is any comments you have about sex dolls and sex robots. What is your take on those and the related ethical and legal challenges, especially when some countries allow legal marriages with sex robots? So there's some interesting questions for the three of you to tackle. Erikaa, do you want to
Way,
go first?
Erikaa.
Yeah.
Erikaa, sorry.
So I'm not feeling called to talk about the sex robots yet. Maybe something will be inspired later. In terms of politics, I'm not a political person. I do feel that there needs to be more community leaders to like just give more resources to sex workers. To the former old me, the little old me that started sex work, I wish I had more resources to know about politics, to know about my rights. More sex workers that are new don't know their rights, and can it really affect them, especially if they're mothers. And so again, I don't have much verbiage to talk about the politics, but I'm wondering, what do these women need? They need resources, they need education, support with financial literacy, like how to invest their money, how to use their money. I know that when I started learning about how to use my money, I was smarter with it. So I was able to invest in mentors. I was able to just take care of my health. You know, not just Planned Parenthood, but there's other female resources. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say
I
after 50 years, I've just seen the pendulum of freedom and repression just swing back and forth and back and forth. And there's so much progress, and there's setbacks. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Believe me, in 1973, when I got into porn, it was debatable if women really had orgasms, and there was no sperm. How could they even have orgasms? You know, people didn't care about women's orgasms. So we've come a long way, literally, since then. So we've grown, and there's a lot. I mean, Erikaa, I couldn't think of a better person to carry the torch. I'm just, you know, we have people like Erikaa are so wise and beautiful. This generation, and but you know, things vary from culture to culture, and there's a book called Sex and History, and it's largely about how women are treated throughout history. And sex is very political, and it's being used right now. Trans people are really under attack. I'm very political, but that's a long discussion. I will say about the robots, you know that the sex industry, the adult industry, dollar per dollar, according to like Forbes, is bigger than the adult entertainment industry than sports and music combined. It is enormous. And sex, at least it was till recently, maybe not now, but was the #1 most searched term on the internet. Sex is something we all have in common, whether we like it or not. It's a human trait that we have. We have to, you know, either enjoy, you know, we have to examine our feelings about sex. But I also, so the sex industry's been a huge leader in technology. You know, when I got in, it was film and then video. Now it's, you know, chat GP or, you know, the technology there, you know, may put porn stars out of business because you can just make, what do you call it? IG, not IG.
Fake.
What?
Fake.
What?
Deep fake porn.
Yes, yeah. Well, not deep fakes necessarily. It's oh God, I'm spacing out on the term, where you can put your picture in and then it generates all these different versions of you. So porn, the adult entertainment industry, has been a huge leader. People got VHS tape players in their houses to watch porn because you just have to go to a theater. Now you have an internet. So as far as robots, I think anything that's brings someone pleasure, that's not hurting someone else, and I'm all for it, you know. I think I've been on fuck machines. I've done a lot of, technical kind of sex. Hell, I showed my cervix in a show I did, post-porn modernist, to 40,000 people. On stage, I used a speculum that people could look in, and I had a microphone and they could comment. So I couldn't have done that without a speculum. So there's all kinds of sex toys and tools and high-tech vibrators, strap-ons. When I was in movies in the 70s, 80s, you had a little piece of elastic holding a plastic thing. It was terrible. You couldn't use it. Now you have all kinds of harnesses. And I mean, we've really, that industry exploded. And, there's good porn out there, and there's really shitty porn. There's shitty sex workers, for that matter. But some clients like being treated like shit too. I sometimes saw, I did burlesque, and sometimes the most snooty, ungenerous women got the most tips or the most fur coats at that time or whatever. So it's a very diverse, I've just seen it explode into all kinds of branches. You can't even say pornography. It's really pornographies or sex works, plural, somehow. Sex industries with an S. There's so much kind. And now everyone can find each other. In the old days, we had to place a little ad, or there was a magazine. If it brings you pleasure, why not? Sex dolls, I think, are very interesting. And sex toys, we've been using them since cave people.
I wanted to banter on this, if I may. First, I just want to say one of my favorite things that I love to do with my clients is to take them to the sex shop and explain all the things. That's one of my favorite things. Oh, if you want to do that, and let's, my friends, ooh, it's so fun. This can do this, and what's really happening here, it's I think I'm gonna be wrong, but it's up until even the 50s that we, like Annie was saying, that the idea of women's orgasms were so elusive. There's a Masters and Johnson, we'll say kind of mockumentary-ish thing. It's not correct exactly, but it was a really fun Netflix show if you want to go watch that. But we're still learning about sexuality. We're still learning about women's sexuality because women were kind of considered less than men for a very long time. And now we're learning about orgasm and what squirt really is and what it isn't, and what bodies can actually do. And what I think about sex toys is I think that we all have different bodies, and our different bodies need different things. I've often joked that to teach someone my combination, the combination to my lock is 4, 6, 5, 3 would be, the combination to my vagina would be like this. Everyone is different, and every male body is very different too, but to find something that works for you. And if you are a robosexual, one who prefers or fetishizes robotics or robots, then enjoy that and celebrate your sexuality there. I think that in some cases, especially as our world and our connectivity is kind of somewhat polarized, and we're all trying to find our way to actual connection, I think that in some ways, some people will choose a sex doll or a toy or a sex robot for the sake of, say, safety, emotional safety. And what I mean by that is that, who else in here is dating? Dating can be really difficult. Social skills can be very difficult, that you still want to be held, and you still want pleasure, and you still want to have some level of connection that maybe some of these things can actually help you with. Has anyone watched Her, the movie Her? That was just, I don't know. I was like, uh-oh. Oh, And now I have a Google Home that I talk to all the time, and it has an Australian guy's voice and a lady's voice. And I'm like, hi, they're like my two roommates. And I'm like, we're edging here. And so if it feels good, do that. If you're not hurting anyone, do that. And if you're hurting someone, please make sure it's consensual, dear geez. And the other piece that I wanted to bring up around sexuality or sacred sexuality is that I love that you were saying like all life is sacred and all desire is sacred, right? I think that all desire is sacred, especially desire that fulfills you and consensually pleases other people in this sense. And I just want to bring up speaking of sacred, all life is sacred sexuality. One of the things that I got to do, and I hope this delights Annie a little bit, is I do have a friend who is very ecosexual, and I got to do this really sweet thing for her birthday where we got roses and liquid nitrogen. And we got to dip the roses in liquid nitrogen and have them like tingly cold on her face before we smashed them on her back. And they exploded because they're frozen so deeply. And she was just delighted with the essence of the flower and the sensation of the earthy and the crash of the being so frozen. It was just juicy, the whole thing. Anyway, there you go. That's my 2 cents on all of those things.
Well, thank you. I'm going to bring all three of you back on, and I want to, Albiana has been asking some good questions, and so thank you. I appreciate all points of view, as long as we're respectful of each other is worthwhile here. So she writes, I'm very sexually and sensually inclined. However, accepting our human body as sacred vessels through its human traits, not necessarily godly loving traits, in accepting human traits. Pleasure is a base animalistic in human entertainment. However, we are called to be greater in spirit of love than just our human bodies ruling us. I don't accept all that's being shared here as truth in God's love. So again, there's no right or wrong. We're not here to argue that. I really respect your putting that into, language and words. And I guess the question she had asked earlier was her concern about the misrepresentation of what sacred sex is. So do any of you have any reflect up and that perspective?
I think sacred sex is different for different people. Some people find one lover that they want to be with their whole life, and that's sacred sex to them, or sex within marriage is sacred sex to some, and to others it might look like tantra. To others it might look like sex work. So there's a whole range of answers to that question. I taught sacred sex 10 years at this women's center, Wise Women's Center, upstate New York. And I think, it's about love largely. But I know when I've turned animalistic, that was very powerfully sacred to me.
Erikaa, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
I agree with what Annie said, that sacred sexuality is different for most people. And I believe that it comes to our culture of what we grow up with. So Annie might have different music and food that she likes in different settings. For me, it doesn't always have to be Tantra or BDSM. Sometimes it can be, a desire to, have a cheeseburger first or tacos, and then listen to some Sade, and then just be held and cry in my partner's arms. And it varies day to day, moment to moment, based on our milestones, based on our experiences. And it doesn't have to look like going to a Tantra festival. You don't have to be chanting these sacred texts. It can be something as simple as going out in nature, hugging a tree and just having that sensual experience with the tree, watching the bees, that can be your sacred sexuality. So again, a lot of this is inspired by some of the stuff you shared as well, Annie.
That's wonderful. I appreciate also somebody, putting that in the chat. And absolutely, we all have to follow our own bliss and our own hearts and our own clitorises and etc. And that's what's so great. I just don't like when people try to control others with and try, I mean, we certainly can have discussions about what is sacred sex, but I don't know that, we need to tell people what that is necessarily. It is for them, I get that, but your sacred sex might not be my sacred sex. So, but yeah, I think that's, I mean, the comments have been wonderful and I've really enjoyed being here. Can I ask one favor before we close?
Sure.
I don't know if anybody's interested in this, but today is Women's Day, and Sotheby's, I donated a piece to Sotheby's to benefit Planned Parenthood. And if you go to Sotheby's and type in my name, you'll see the piece that's up for auction. And it's a beautiful NFT. But that's the NFT. And if you're not into NFTs, it comes with a box. If you scroll down, unfortunately, the photos they put up don't do it justice. Keep going down. Oh, it's up to $700. But I really want to get this up to higher to $3,000. If someone with money wants to make a donation to Planned Parenthood, which helps lots of women get health care they need, and it's not just about abortions. There's the tit print, the Flexgina box that we made, which has dozens of things in it. I don't know why they just put the books, but there's a whole list of what's in it. If someone would at least put, if someone's money has $1,000 to bid on it, I think it will go up to the 3,000. But I'd like to see us get past that, get the 4 figures going. But there's also incredible other art on there. And it's curated by Pussy Riot, they expect to raise like $250,000 for Planned Parenthood. And so if someone has money and loves women and women's health care, I just took my chosen daughter to get she just got diagnosed with cervical cancer, and Planned Parenthood set her up completely and gave her free health care. And it's so important. So anyway, I'm just hoping that the piece brings in a good chunk. So thank you.
Thank you for that donation. I mean, I'm looking at what you created there. It's amazing. And the list, you guys go to the link, I put it in the chat box. It's incredible how many things she's providing. I mean, it's like a whole 50-year history via Annie. So I want to read what Tabitha wrote, and then I want to go to Trish for Trish's comments on this, on the kind of sacred sexuality issue. I wrote a quick musing thought. Sacred worship is a lot about connection, intention, and very personal. So therefore, I guess sacred can be just about anything based on one's point of view. So Trish, what are your thoughts about that?
Thank you. Okay. Early on in my younger years, in my 19s and 20s, I had this idea. I was really exploring my sexuality coming out of Montana, which is a very repressed area, and you don't get to explore much. And I thought, I was like, I want to bring spirituality to my sex life. And so I started to get into sky dancing tantra and started moving towards the Charles Muir section. And like, I just started to really explore a lot of different things. I got trained in a tantra community. And And I saw that as more sacred than other things. And as I've aged and got into BDSM pretty heavily, and as I've started to see just more different polyamorous dynamics or different monogamous dynamics, it occurred to me that to participate in a hierarchy of making something less than wasn't actually where I wanted to put my focus on what is sacred. You know, after going through 2 years and 500 hours of a course around what is sex and what is sex coaching, it occurred to me that different people have different needs and different people have different desires. And that on a very human, pure scale, that the desire for that the seeking pleasure is a pure place. It is some aspect of purity. Now, again, I don't see something as more sacred or less than sacred, because I see that all life is sacred. I see that even the scrunchie to the cat, to your deepest pains, to your most amazing expression of your delight is sacred. Even when you're irreverent and cursing and doing all sorts of, I even think that murderers and rapists are sacred at heart. Their activities and their strategies to get their needs met are tragic and terrible. But deep down at the very core of each human being, I believe that each human being is sacred. Each cell on this planet is sacred, down to the very, very core of whatever it is. Every cork and atom on this planet is sacred. So I don't participate in the hierarchy of what is sacred and not sacred. And what is sacred sex to you, like all the others shared, is really so deeply personal that when you presence yourself into your pleasure and are honest and owning that, whether there's still shame or not, then that is the purest part of your sacred sexuality piece. I'm not going to shame anyone for whatever kinky, weird stuff. I'm going to be like, well, it's not what I'm into, but can I watch? At least.
I want to riff on that for one moment, and that is that a wonderful practice to create peace in the world is for us to see the divinity in everyone and to recognize that any problem we ever have with another person is with a choice that they made or a behavior that they have. Now, we all have made choices that have had hurtful consequences. And so you can still see the divinity, the sacred, in any being. And that doesn't mean you're condoning their choices. It doesn't mean you are accepting their behaviors. But we make that differentiation between the beauty of the being and the choices or the behaviors that have caused harm.
So I want to riff just a hot second. One of the things in the course that was incredibly hard for me at that moment, they wanted us to watch a movie about a pedophile. And I melted about it. It was incredibly hard for me to watch it because I'm very feisty when it comes to protecting children and old people and animals and things, people that can't give full consent. Anybody who's inebriated, all that, I just get really feisty about it. And in this movie, it shows that a person was attracted to this young man. And I melted about it for days, months, actually. I melted about this whole thing for like 2 or 3 months. And then I started to just dive into research. And do you know that 67%, which I think is actually higher, 67% of the people that they studied, which is just a very shallow drop in a pool of people who were convicted of pedophilia, were sexualized as children. Now, why I'm bringing this up is that it's specific to how we're trained in what we are pleased by or what we are seeking. Now, this person, then I started to really fathom, like, what happens when you're seeking out pleasure, when you're seeking out connection? Someone taught that person that that's what connection is, and they're still seeking pleasure from an older place, or they're seeking these things. Like, there's so many places that a person could be desiring to heal something or desire for connection, and to think about it in a way that's really looking at the person as a whole, beautiful being. Again, I'm not condoning the behavior, but can I understand the person's desire for connection and playfulness and youthfulness that they were robbed of as a child? For real. I can totally get it. Am I going to be like, yeah, do that? No, I'm not going to do that. But am I going to be like, I see the sacredness of that person's deep desire for the what's the word I'm looking for, where it's very innocent, the innocence of pleasure. Okay, I'm gonna cry. I'm done now. End rant. Ding.
Well, we're also at that time where we're going to start wrapping up a little bit, and just a reminder of where people can get more information. So we just heard our beloved co-host Trish sharing a reminder that all things Trish Wright lives on the website of trishwrightloves.com. Trish Wright Loves, and she spells that WRIGHT. Anything you want to promote here, Trish? What do you want people to know about?
I'm actually moving into a new realm of my work. So we just finished Sacred, the self-secure class, and we're going to be moving into probably the Resma Menakem Book Club. And then I'm going to be teaching some new classes on BDSM. So I'm not ready to launch it yet, but stay tuned. And if you just need help, if you want to have a conversation about sexuality, or you just have some questions, reach out to me. And I'm going to see if I can poach any of these beautiful people that are here tonight to come talk to me at all.
And remember, everybody, that tomorrow morning is the Self-Love Show. Every Thursday morning at 10 a.m., Trish has a wonderful show, the Self-Love Show. Who's your guest tomorrow, Trish?
I have no idea. Can I get back to you?
I saw a poster. There was a poster that made its way. So anyway, she has a guest tomorrow morning. Well, if you find it and post it, I'll bring it up.
Compasha, Mama, she's going to be doing a self-marriage matrimony, and she's all about self-love. It's going to be really, really sweet. So come on over.
Beautiful. And all things Erikaa are on her website, which is her name, Erikaa, ERIKAA. There's two A's in there. Briones, BRIONES. Definitely put your email address in there so that you can keep track of what she's doing. I'm doing that right now. And what would you like for us to focus on in your website, Erikaa?
So right now I'm extremely proud of Elemental Pleasure. So I have about 30-ish videos that I co-created with my friend Yulia Rose. She is a tantrika. And so we basically collaborated overseas. We still haven't met. So I created various practices for women only. Everything from breast massage to various tools to release trauma. And it's a private community. It's off Facebook, it's off Instagram, it's on WhatsApp. So it's a very private community, and you get access to me, some emotional clearing work, and community support. And this is something I'm extremely proud of, and something I am open to is supporting anyone who is a sex worker and they need guidance. I'm happy to have a conversation because I was there before. I was there Googling the answers before.
I so appreciate you. And I was really grateful when you agreed to do the show with us again tonight. You're very, very eloquent, and I just love your combination of vulnerability, honesty, and wisdom. And it's really been fun for me to introduce you to Annie. It's so cool how Annie was an inspiration for you, and I'm kind of guessing that you're a bit of an inspiration for Annie.
Oh, we're inspiring each other. So
Absolutely.
grateful for this.
The great thing about sex is the more you learn, the more you realize you have more to learn.
I know, Annie. I'm
It's
like,
just
I need
endless.
I need a message you. I want to learn about all your wisdom, all your wisdom.
Vice versa, Erica. Let's be in touch. AnnieSprinkle@me.com.
Yeah.
It's my email. And everyone, I wish you all lots of eco-sexy fun and pleasure. And whether you're asexual, bisexual, whatever, celibate, I'm all for whatever it is. I think we all have to just do it our way and follow our bliss. And yeah, thank you, Erica, for being that mentor to many. I'm sure you're an excellent mentor, and I'm glad you're out there. Just stay safe.
I'm glad I discovered you in Urban Tantra. So I'm kind of interested in finding out more about ecosexual and nerding out with you too, Trish. Like, I want to reach out and talk to you. I think we need more of this. I think we need more women that are empowered to just share their sexuality, because it is so healing. It is so healing to be with another woman who respects this work.
And thank you, Trish, for what you said. I agree. We're all quite perfect in our imperfections. And Scott, it was so good to see you again.
Oh my gosh, you've come a long way from Patrick Henry Junior High School.
Yeah, and we're still alive. That's great. I've lost my mother this year and about 5 really close friends this year. So we're still here, and so many aren't.
That's right, and we're still doing our thing. So much love. We always open and close with Omashar. We're going to go to an Omashar song, and then I've got just some information about the LA retreat to share with everybody. But let's go, and Trish is going to be there. But let's go to Omashar for a closing song.
Wow, I feel like I'm in junior high. What an incredibly inspiring, open discussion. And being brought up in England, the shame around my sexuality that I have unconsciously maintained for most of my life only really comes to the surface in this type of discussion. And I think even 10, 15 years ago, I might not have been able to hear this discussion, but I can now. And I'm just noticing all these little prickles in myself that are rising. And what it does is just point back to, as Trish was saying earlier, to my early childhood conditioning about my sexuality. Holy smoke. Holy smoke. So I can't really say anything to it, except thank you so much. And here's a little song called One Breath. A little song, it's an awesome song. And we can rock to it a little bit, maybe. And here we
Ooh. Thank you. I believe in true love. It's opened up my heart, leading me, leading you to new beginnings. And I believe in the one love that takes you by the hand, and you hear in a whisper, I've something to show you. creation, a golden path before us. Our angel wings they open and soar us to new heights of understanding. And I believe in the one voice, the spirit of our land, blowing me, blowing you home to forever. And I perceive, not so far away, a world that breathes as one. So I live for this day and no more tomorrow. Each day a new creation, a golden path before us. Our angel wings they open and soar us to new heights of understanding. Standing, each day a new creation, a golden path before us. Our angel wings they open and soar us to new heights of understanding.
Fantastic. Let's gonna go to gallery review. Little twinkling for our beloved brother Omashar. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you so much, my friend.
Mutual.
And a reminder that all things Omashar recording wise can be found on omashar.bandcamp.com. That's where his albums are, and we can support him by buying his music. And you can also support him by coming to be with Omashar and I and a whole lot of others, and Trish, because we are all going to be together in Los Angeles from March 28th until April 3rd for this whole series of wonderful events, starting with the LA Convergence. Hey, Jerry Anderson's going to be there. I see, Jerry. I'm putting you on.
It's going to be exciting to get all together again and do real hugs.
Hey, there you are. You did hear me. All right. So yeah, you can join Jerry and Trish and Omashar and myself. I know that Charlotte and Jennifer, where are they? I'm going to put, there's Jennifer. She's going to be down there. And Roger and Bonnie are going to be there. And Charlotte's going to be there. So come join all of us in Los Angeles. We've got a great set of events planned. Registration is now open. I've got a few rooms left in this big gigantic house that we're getting in Westchester. And so I'm putting the details in. And Trish, what are you most excited about with the retreat?
Oh, continuing to cultivate community in person after a long, wild pandemic, as well as being able to support my community. I love being of service. So that's one of the things that I really appreciate. And I'm so excited to love and support all of you who come and play in a really nice area because the weather up here has been like, whoa, okay.
It's going to be beautiful. So I just put into the chat box the link to the house that we're renting and a link to the retreat information where you can learn all about what we're doing and you can register. And I should probably put myself on camera here, shouldn't I? I just want to close by letting you know what we've got planned this weekend on the Awakening World. On Saturday night, it's all about doing everything with love. And some of you have seen that wonderful video that I commissioned Johanna Beekman to do called Doing Everything with Love, based on the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. And my co-host is Eden Amadora. We love Eden. She's going to be back on co-hosting with me. Of course, Omashar will be with us. And we are going to interview different people, everything ranging from a Pakistani lawyer and activist to an animal rights activist. And then our own Terry Russo. You know, Terry is a nurse and she represents all the people who are boots on the ground, you know, salt of the earth, doing such beautiful work. And Terry does it all with love. And what's interesting was when we were putting this together, I got the inspiration kind of out of the blue, almost like a download, to invite Terry. Not only is she going to be on the show with us, but it turns out that March 11th, the day of the show, is her birthday. So yeah, right. I mean, it's like, hello, chances are 1 out of 365 for that one. So Terry's going to be with us. We've got great music with Johanna Beekman, Sherry Howard, and Omashar. So definitely make sure you join us on Saturday night. And then finally, last announcement is this Sunday's show, all about finding your community. And I know a lot of you are looking for community. Well, I've got Cynthia Tina coming back. She literally wrote the book on intentional communities. She's traveled all around the world twice. She's circumvented the globe, going to all the different intentional communities, writing books about it, posting about it. She has an amazing slideshow. So we're going to learn a lot about finding community on our Sacred Sunday show, the Sunday, and of course, Omashar will start and end that show also with music. So that's what we've got planned this weekend. I sure hope some of you are going to register to join us in LA. I'm really excited about that. And yes, yeah, we'll give you another day. Yeah, what, Trish?
Me too. I'm really excited.
Absolutely. Annie Sprinkle, thank you so much for being with us. Erikaa, thank you so much for being with us. And beautiful Omashar. And thank you, everybody. Eleanor Joy, your dancing is our inspiration. Have a beautiful evening, everybody. God's blessings. Take care.